So the most frustrating part about having a project car is when the weather gets nice and you hear everybody else out enjoying their cars and yours is still in shambles. Okay, we gotta get some work done on this thing. Got the motor and tranny back in, all back in place. Everything fits well. I didn't have to change anything with the cross member, even with the new tranny, everything bolted up fine. And today we gotta get some work done on this thing. So, I've got pretty much everything I need to get going on this thing and just start pounding it out. So today I wanna start working on the hot side. We gotta get that guy mounted up. So, I'm gonna use the existing header that I have. You know, I just got these cheap shorty headers years ago on eBay. And I'm gonna reuse them. So, I'm gonna flip them like this. They're gonna be pointing up. But I gotta get rid of that flange that's on the end, because I'm gonna weld new stuff on. So we're gonna put it in the chop saw, cut that off, and then I've got all of my pieces over here, all new stainless. Bunch of manual bent pieces. And we're gonna start fabbing this thing up today. See if I can at least get one side done. But we gotta start by cutting that guy apart. And just like that, we have a header we can work with. So now that that's cut off and I deburred the inside of the file, I'm gonna slap her back on and we'll get the turbo sitting where we need it and start cutting more pipe. Okay, with the header on, I've got the turbo sitting where I think I'm gonna put it. I had to put the wheel back on and I turned it in just so I can make sure that I'm not gonna hit it. I don't want to put the turbo in the spot where it's going to interfere with anything. So I put the wheel on, jacked it up so it's as high as it'll go while it's turned, just to make sure I don't have interference. So I got the turbo sitting on a block of wood. I've got my flange kind of just loosely bolted to the turbo. And that's pretty much where I want it to sit, because the exit on the exhaust will kind of point down underneath the header, so I can run it out the back. So pretty much all I gotta do is I gotta hold it right now because it wants to keep turning on me. But I have to run from this flange up to the header now, and I want to try and do it all with one piece. So I'm gonna be cutting that up to many pieces, and I might have to do some like wedge cuts and stuff like that. And it's gonna be a lot of welding, but I don't want to buy any more pipe. Looking how this sits in here, like I'm gonna have to cut this up pretty good because I want this to bend right away. I want to start turning it right away. So I'm gonna have to do like a wedge cut or something, get rid of some of these straight sections and start turning it right away. But I'm gonna chop it up, start fitting it, and we'll see if I can do this with one piece. All right, I got her all chopped up. Doesn't look like much left after you cut her into little pieces. This is the end. You'll see like it's got this expanded end, so it can slip over the normal 2.5 inch diameter. That's what this piece is. I cut off the top and bottom, so I've got this expanded section. And the reason I keep that is I need to try and mate the two together. So I want to occupy as much of this flange as I can. I'm gonna make this thing a square or a rectangle to try and fill these gaps. But the fact that this expands kind of makes it something like this, right? This is a 3 inch to 2.5 inch reducer. This isn't as drastic as that, but every little bit helps when you're trying to fill such a large void like that. So if the kit that you buy has expanded ends like this, don't be afraid to save that and use it for something like I'm about to. That's what that is. Now, this is the piece of the 90 that I cut for this. Spin it around. It's gonna sit on top of that little piece I just told you about. And when I get, you'll see I still gotta make another angle towards the header, but I don't have any more 90-degree bend for that, and I don't want to chop this up yet because I've got another spot I want to use that. So what I did was I made all these little pie wedges, pie pieces, whatever you want to call them, and with those I can make another radius. Okay, and the easiest way I found to cut those, first of all, you're going to want to chop some. You can pick these things up pretty cheap, but if you're gonna try and do this kind of work with a angle grinder, good luck to you, because it's gonna be hard to get your cut straight and square. But pick yourself up one of these guys or borrow it from a buddy or something. And all I did was, and it's some trial and error, I just put a bit of an angle in it and start cutting pieces. Now, just a little tip that I found. I took a marker and ran a straight line down one side of it, and then you can kind of see there it is down the other side. And all you do is you're just gonna, I had my line flat this way. Cut it, flip it, cut it, and you just keep shoving it in and flipping it, right? And that way you'll start getting pieces like this coming out. And I deburred it with my file. Got it tacked together. And what I ended up doing was, so I'm no professional welder by any means. So I got myself just a little MIG, and I bought flux stainless wire for it. I've never used it before, but I'm gonna try it because I don't have a TIG welder. TIG would be ideal. But if I send it out and have it TIGged, yes, it's gonna look great, but it's also gonna cost a lot more money. So I'm gonna try and do it myself with my little MIG welder. And one thing I'm noticing is I'm not sure what I'm doing wrong, but even with my tacks, like stainless is definitely a different animal. I keep getting these little dick things coming out of my tacks. And you watch it grow too. You tack it and then you see these little things spurt out. Not quite sure what I'm doing wrong. I'm gonna have to try and do a few more test pieces. I took a couple pieces of scrap and tried to weld them together earlier just to get an idea. And like, look at those guys that were growing out of it. That's ugly. But I was playing with my heats and stuff like that. I mean, I got one good bead going, and then you stop and that grows out of it. So, not quite sure what I'm doing wrong. If I turn up the heat too much, it burns right through it. Not enough, no penetration. And I thought I was doing good in some of these spots, and then you get that. But I have to play around with it a little bit more, see what I'm doing wrong. Like I said, but like, I don't have gas. I don't use argon because I don't feel like paying for the contract, $300 a year just to have a bottle in my garage for how little welding I actually do. So we do the flux core method, and it's not as clean, but well, we'll see what happens. See how I make out. Hopefully I don't burn a million holes in it. But this is what I've ended up with. So that'll fit right like that. Like so. I'm happy with that. And like I say, I'm going to manipulate the end there once I get this all welded solid. Like these seams, I'm gonna weld that solid first before I start bending up the end and try and making it rectangular. But I'm happy with the fitment. I like that. And when it sits there, see if I can make it sit there again. You come down and it is lower than the fenders, which is good. You don't want it sticking through the hood or getting too close to the hood. But I'm going to attempt to weld this all solid, and hopefully I don't make dog food of it. I don't want to redo it. Okay, my first attempt at welding solid. It looks like dog food, but I'm slowly figuring it out. One thing I noticed about this stuff, when you weld, it gets the slag on it, and as it's cooling down, it starts popping. The slag starts like popping on its own. So don't, as much as you want to admire your welds or get really close and see if you miss the spot, just give it the chance to cool down first before you put your face near it, because I got close to it and the stuff was popping, and stuff hit me right in the eye. Like, you know, I had a good bead going there, decent bead, it's decent. And then I stop and that's what you get, it's just a big booger. So, I'm gonna have to clean it up with a grinder. You know, I don't claim to be a welder, but I guess I'm a grinder. But that's the best I can do. Got some penetration though. Some penny. But I'm gonna have to grind it and see if I miss a spot. Ooh, there's a booger inside. Nice. That's where I burned through. I burned through, then I had to fill it. I mean, worst case scenario, if it looks like absolute crap, as long as it's strong, I can grind it down and wrap it all in heat wrap. I'd love to say I'm a fabricator and I can show off my welds, but let's be realistic, I'm not. So I might have to cover it up. But I'll tell you this, she will be strong. I will make sure that. Regardless of what you may think, I have welded before. I'm not proud of this one. I tried. Oh, how I tried. But it fought me every step of the way. So hopefully my grinding skills are better than my stainless welding skills. I almost was tempted to put the normal wire back in my welder and give her with that, but you know, guaranteed to rust, that'll be. So, I don't know. It looks like poo. Absolute poo. You know, but you know, you get the odd decent, yeah, it still looks like poo. I don't know, I'm gonna grind her down, try and salvage this, and yeah. Well, I'll probably end up wrapping it. I'm gonna grind it though, hope for the best. I swear I'm not a bad welder. But this doesn't tell you otherwise. But I'm a good grinder. My grind game is strong. Yeah. So, after grinding her down, it doesn't look great. It looks better. And I'm gonna leave it at that. Because worst case scenario, which I think I'm gonna do anyway, I'm gonna wrap it in header wrap, so you won't see any of this poo. But at least I know it's strong and it's not gonna rust, nothing like that. And I've welded exhaust before, but I've used just regular mild steel flux core wire that comes with the welders. And I swear my welds look good. This did not look good. This stainless wire was a totally different animal for me, and I struggled. And now I have to deal with this garbage. Look at inside. Ugh. I gotta get that crap out of there. I gotta grind her down inside. That's not too bad there, but those boogers, I gotta get rid of those. So I shot out and I picked up you know, electric die grinder, some bits, and I'm gonna try and grind those down. But all in all, it is what it is. I tried. I semi-succeeded. What are you gonna do? But let's get those cleaned up. Okay, I hit it with the die grinder. Got most of it out. Definitely looks better. Can't get it all, because that stuff is hard to grind, and those bits are limited. So I did the best I could. It is what it is. Gonna move on here. Swing over here. I'm gonna tack this puppy to the header. And actually, no, I'm not. I'm gonna attach it to the flange first. Then I'll do the header, because that'll be easier to do not attached to the header. Yep, I'm going to mate those two suckers together. That's what I'm gonna do. So the flange has a 2-inch opening. I'm gonna use my vise to try and crush this, which is 2.5 inches, because this is the flared end that I had. I'm gonna try and crush this down to make it fit like that. I'm gonna crush the sides. It should push these ends out. And once I get this to the width I want, I think I'm gonna weld it, and then I'll work the other sides, and we're gonna try and fill in these gaps. Not quite sure how well it's gonna work, but I think I can manipulate it enough. Well, that's enough there. It's gonna be a lot to fill. Well, I think I'm going to tack that in place. Then I'll have to just beat the tar out of it. See how close I can get it? But I'm going to tack that now. So I just want to show you guys something with welding this flange on. The flange obviously is much thicker than the pipe. So you'll see the bead I tried laying down. Again, I'm struggling with this stainless wire. The bead looks like it's just sitting on top of the flange and didn't actually penetrate. It took to the pipe just fine, but not the flange very well. So what I did on this side was I took a torch, you know, I just, regular torch. I actually use MAP gas, not propane. This stuff burns hotter. But I heated up the steel on this side. You'll see how the flange is actually like discolored in the middle. I just sat there for like a minute with the torch and preheated the steel. And you can see how the weld took a lot better on this side compared to that side, where it actually looks like it's raised up. So preheating it definitely seemed to take a lot better. So I'm probably gonna grind this side out and heat up the flange with the torch and re-weld that side. And then I'm gonna try and work this metal out to fill up these enormous gaps. Because I'll pretty much burn through all my wire trying to fill that in if I don't. But okay, I'm gonna spend some time grinding that out and re-weld it, and then I'm gonna beat this thing like it owes me money. I know it doesn't look like much, but I did manage to close up the gap a little bit all around, especially down at the bottom there. I just put a lot of heat to the pipe, got it glowing red, and then started beating on it. So I got some gaps to fill with the weld. So I'm gonna heat that flange back up and start giving her. Well, that went better than I thought it was going to. Not getting style points, but it filled in way easier than I thought it was going to. Yeah. She's not going to win a beauty contest. Got a little bit of cleanup to do inside with the die grinder. But I'll chalk that up as a success. I like it, but I don't like it, but I like it. I like it. She's so hot. She's so hot. Oh, you're gonna look so good. It's so hot to hold right now. I'm an idiot. I gotta put this down. Whew. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna let that cool down a bit. I'm gonna get that header off. Actually, I'm gonna mark it first. I kind of already put one little marker mark. But I'm gonna put another marker mark. A couple marks. Mark it on the other end too. Pull her off. Mate the two together. And then that's one side done. Be back in a minute. Would you just look at it? I'm pumped with how that turned out. I know welds aren't pretty, but I love how that's sitting. So all I have left to do with this is I have to mount the wastegate, which I'll do tomorrow because I've had enough for tonight. And can't say I didn't get anything done. But, I mean, the height's good. It's well below the hood. Turbo's sitting in a good spot. I do have clearance. Got lots of room between the tire, and the tire is never be that close anyway. And the exhaust should exit basically straight out the back underneath the header in this area. But for tonight, I'm so happy that I've got that turbo hung. And then I'll do the other side pretty much the same as I did this side. But yeah, don't be afraid to try things. This is my first time welding stainless. I'm not gonna say it was a major success, but I will call it a success. Some things turned out better than others. But I'm gonna cover it all in wrap anyway. Might not be able to cover all that, but so be it. That's it for tonight. Later.